Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to talk to you about metformin, a medication widely used by people with diabetes, prediabetes, polycystic ovary syndrome, and by those who want to lose weight. A lot of people get confused with so much information out there on the internet, and they ask me, Patricia, talk about what's myth and what's fact regarding the liver, the kidneys, health in a broader sense, and weight loss. Today I'm going to explain all of this to you. Stick around until the end because you won't want to miss it. Before we start, I want to ask you if you've ever heard of metformin, or if you take metformin. It's also known as glucophage. And many people are prescribed it by their doctors specifically for diabetes. But we know there are several other health conditions where doctors prescribe metformin. Tell me if you've ever used it, haven't used it, what your experience with metformin was, and if you had any side effects. I'd love to see your comment. If you can, go ahead and leave a like on the video. This is very important to me here on the channel. It shows YouTube that you support the channel and trust my content. And if you know someone who takes metformin, share this video. Let's expand our chain of kindness. So, what does metformin do in the body? Many people take the medication and don't even really know how it works in our bodies. Well, metformin acts mainly in 3 places. First, in the liver. In type 2 diabetes, a big part of the problem is that the liver produces too much glucose, even when we don't eat. So, this excess hepatic production of glucose is regulated by metformin. It reduces this production as if it were telling the liver, less, because you don't need so much here anymore. So, this mainly improves fasting blood sugar, that dawn phenomenon, the higher glucose upon waking up, which often happens in people with insulin resistance. It also acts secondly on our muscles. It can slightly improve insulin sensitivity in these peripheral tissues, helping the cell respond better to the insulin signal. And it also acts in the intestine. This is a point that many people don't know about. Part of its effect happens in the gastrointestinal tract. It can reduce glucose absorption to some extent, not completely. It can influence intestinal hormones, including GLP-1, which is so often mentioned in relation to weight loss injections. And it can change the environment of the microbiota, which may affect metabolism and blood sugar in some people. So it has very broad effects on our body that can, in a combined way, act directly on the issue of blood sugar control. The first myth people talk about is, oh, metformin is going to give me hypoglycemia. I have to be careful because metformin can lower my blood sugar too much. I could faint on the street because of metformin. Let's talk about this. The risk of metformin causing hypoglycemia for the vast majority of people is quite low because it does not work by stimulating insulin production. So, when someone experiences hypoglycemia while using metformin, it's usually because they've had a prolonged fast, a very low caloric intake, consumed a lot of alcohol, have some type of advanced kidney failure, more severe kidney problems, or may have combined it with other anti-hyperglycemic medications such as insulin, for example. There are diabetics, even those with type 2 diabetes, who are taking insulin because their blood glucose is poorly controlled. In that case, hypoglycemia can occur. Or other medications to control blood sugar, together with metformin. If you have any symptoms of hypoglycemia, it's very important that you talk to your doctor because metformin is not supposed to cause hypoglycemia. What are the most classic symptoms? Shaking in the body, cold sweat, a feeling of rapid heartbeat as if you were about to faint. I have videos on the channel talking about the symptoms of hypoglycemia. I'll leave them in the description, but for the vast majority of people, that's a myth. That doesn't happen, as long as you're not going through those situations I mentioned. Second question, Patricia, is metformin going to give me diarrhea? Because there are people who say, look, I started taking metformin, I had a lot of gas, I ate something and had to run to the bathroom, that explosive diarrhea, I just couldn't hold it in. This really can happen to some people. The most common side effects of metformin are related to the digestive tract. It can cause nausea, abdominal discomfort, a lot of gas, diarrhea, and that urgent need to have a bowel movement, where sometimes the person just can't hold it, can't make it to the bathroom, and really gets worried about taking it and leaving the house for fear of feeling unwell. So what do doctors usually do? Either they choose the extended release metformin XR, which because it is released gradually throughout the day doesn't cause as many side effects, or if you're using the more basic form of metformin, they start by titrating the dose, that is taking half a tablet, staying on half a tablet for a few days, then increasing it and seeing how your body reacts. And always take it right after a meal because when your stomach is empty, it hits directly and can cause that intestinal upset. If the person is having a lot of complaints, it might be necessary to change the dose, stop the medication, or even switch to a different one. So if you're having a lot of intestinal problems with metformin, talk to your doctor. And what about the kidneys? Some people are afraid, wondering if metformin will harm the kidneys or not. And here, we need to separate 2 things. What metformin can cause to the kidneys and people who already have a kidney problem and have diabetes. Because unfortunately, this ends up being very common. Regarding metformin, since it is eliminated, excreted by the kidneys. If you have any kind of problem with kidney function, there could be some issues with its elimination. So if you have significant kidney function problems, if you have, in short, any kind of kidney injury, it is very important that you tell your doctor before starting to take metformin. It's not that metformin will harm your kidneys, but if your kidneys are already compromised, it requires a dose adjustment, some caution, and perhaps the choice of another medication that won't harm your kidneys. But metformin itself does not harm the kidneys. Another issue with metformin is related to vitamin B12, because many people already know about the importance of vitamin B12, especially for those with diabetes, regarding the nervous system itself and issues related to numbness and diabetic peripheral neuropathy, those extremities where you can't feel very well, that are very cold, and so on. And vitamin B12 has a strong, very significant relationship with this. Now, metformin can decrease the absorption of B12 in the intestine. This is actually true. So over time, in a chronic way, if you take metformin for years continuously, it can lead to anemia, fatigue, tingling, worsening of balance, and neurological symptoms. So it's very important to regularly check your B12 levels when you use metformin chronically, and it may be necessary to supplement. I have a video here on the channel talking more about metformin. What are the main mistakes people make when supplementing? Because this happens quite often, and I'll leave it here below in the description for you. Regarding metformin and the liver, many people also have questions. Can it put too much strain on the liver, overload it? And in fact, it's the opposite. It can even protect the liver, because since it helps reduce the issue of excess circulating glucose, and since it can help improve insulin sensitivity, it can help with this issue, specifically with fatty liver. We know that people with diabetes are at greater risk of fatty liver disease or hepatic steatosis because of this metabolic syndrome. So usually people who have type 2 diabetes, prediabetes, or insulin resistance tend to have more prominent abdominal fat. So since metformin can help with glucose sensitivity and all those mechanisms I mentioned to you indirectly, it can indeed help protect the liver. Now, if you already have some liver problem, obviously you shouldn't just start taking any medication on your own. It's important that you talk to your doctor first. What's even more interesting to mention is that metformin can help in a complementary way with the issue of liver fat. But remember that a balanced diet, physical exercise, and not drinking alcohol also help a lot with liver fat. I have here a playlist talking more about everything related to the liver to help you as well. Some people want to know if it's true that metformin helps control cholesterol. It's not a classic cholesterol medication, but since you can improve insulin resistance, there may be a slight improvement in triglycerides, because they are usually very closely related to elevated glucose. In some cases, it improves the lipid profile, HDL, and the overall metabolic profile. So some people experience an improvement in this aspect of the lipid profile, including cholesterol and its various components in the blood. In addition, since metformin can slightly reduce appetite in some people, and people may make better food choices, it can also indirectly help with cholesterol. Some people have questions about the metformin tablet, especially the XR version, which can be passed whole in the stool. And some people have already mentioned this to me. Oh, Patricia, when I went to the bathroom, I saw that the whole tablet came out. Does that mean it wasn't absorbed? Actually, no. In these cases, sometimes, especially at the beginning of taking the medication, in the first few days, the tablet may come out intact, but the outer shell does not mean that the bioactive compound was not absorbed by the body. Now, if this is happening regularly, and if it always happens to you, it's important to talk to your doctor as well. There are also a lot of people who say they take metformin to lose weight, or that they took metformin and ended up losing 20, 30, 40 pounds. Metformin is not a metabolism booster, nor is it a classic weight loss drug. But in fact, many people who already have insulin resistance may lose weight because it helps correct issues with blood sugar and hyperinsulinemia in the body, which are factors that promote weight gain. And also, since it slightly reduces appetite, once again by decreasing caloric intake, you may, cumulatively over time, lose weight. It's important to remember that using metformin for weight loss is off-label. It's not indicated for this purpose in the package insert, but some endocrinologists do use it for this, and it can yield good results. Regarding the dosage, timing, splitting of doses, and dose titration, all of that always needs to be determined by your doctor, the one who sees you in your city. Every medication prescription must take your personal health into account. The doctor needs to evaluate you, review your blood tests, and conduct clinical examinations. So if you think you need help with this, you need to see a doctor, and it's the doctor who will determine what's best for you. Never take medication on your own. Never take what your husband took, what your sister took, or what your cousin took. That can be very dangerous for your health. Tell me if you've ever used metformin, how much you used, and what your results were. I would love to read your comment. Remember to like the video, it really helps me, and share it with those who will enjoy it and those who need it. Let's expand our chain of kindness. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.